Hey everyone, welcome back. My name is Seth Weiner and I am your Rocktioneer. It's summer. Yes, it is summer. Time to get caught up on a couple of our coffee connections from the past season. And so today I'm going to tell you what we're doing here in just a second, who our guest is. But I want to make sure that you go right now and check your air conditioning. Is it on? Because it's like 120 degrees outside. You could seriously cook eggs on my car. That's how hot it is. Well, maybe you're in Alaska and it's not that hot, but it's hot here in Atlanta. It really is. All right, folks. Well, thanks for tuning in. And let's tell you about today's show. Today, we've got Silver Comet Animal Welfare Alliance featured here with Shari Cahill, their director. Now, the organization was founded in 2018 to provide medical care assistance, resource development, advocacy, and human education for underserved animals throughout Georgia. They help more than 80 organizations each year with funding and fundraising, in-kind donations, networking, events, and hands-on support such as fostering. They've got they're highly rated everywhere you can look, including they won the American Humane Hero Veterinary Nurse Award. So let's bring Shari here into the show. Give me a second to get all of my... There we go. That's how it works. Hi, how are you?
Good, thanks. How are you?
I'm great. Good to have you on the show today. But before we start talking about all the wonderful work you all do with Silver Comet, I got to ask you the question I ask everyone. Do you drink coffee?
I don't, but I did come prepared, and I wanted to let you know about several organizations that sell coffee to benefit rescue animals, one of which we are partnered with. It's called Grounds and Hounds, and got a little picture here. We have, you see it? So at groundsandhounds.com, if you go to their website and put in the code Silver Comet AWA with a capital S, capital C, and capital T, it will get you 15% off your order, and 10% will come back to our organization. And they support lots of organizations across the country. In addition to this one, there's a company called Pitbull Coffee Company that supports several nonprofits throughout Atlanta. And there's also a company called Hugo that benefits them, that benefits other organizations. And in fact, if you just Google coffee companies that support dogs, you'll see a whole list of things come up.
Wow, I had no clue about all that. That is amazing. So here, folks, you're pretty much getting a cup of coffee from just watching this program. How about that? That's incredible. Speaking of coffee, now we understand where you like getting your coffee from, an organization, a company that's going to give back, which is phenomenal. But what kind of coffee do you like drinking? Are you iced coffee, hot coffee?
Neither.
No coffee's fine also.
No, I'm more tea than coffee. I guess maybe every once in a while doing a like a mocha ice cream or something like that. But generally no. I just I stay away from the hot liquids.
All right. Well, let's jump in. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, what's that?
I said I hope that's not too disappointing.
No, no, no. We've got a lot of tea drinkers here. Matter of fact, one guest actually sent me some tea, and it was phenomenal. Now, of course, I can't remember what tea it was because I drank it and I liked it, and then so I'll have to find that again. But hey, listen. Maybe next series we'll go from coffee connections to tea time. Although that gets a little confusing because then we'll have to talk about golf tournaments and that just gets a little strange. So we're going to stay on topic and we're going to go ahead and hand it over to you to talk about Silver Comet and what the Silver Comet Animal Welfare Alliance is and does.
Okay. Would you mind putting up that first slide?
Not at all. Hang on a second here. Let's do that for you.
Okay, so as you mentioned before, 4 years ago, we were founded to provide resource development for animals in underserved areas to help with advocacy and to create humane education programs because those are things that we found were gaps in a lot of areas, mainly because rescue organizations are so focused on pulling and placing animals in need. Would you put the next slide up, please? And this is why. Right now in Georgia, we have an unfortunate situation with animal welfare, and that is we are currently sixth worst in the nation for companion animal save rates, meaning animals leaving shelters after entering shelters. We have a very low save rate versus what's typically called euthanasia. We also are the fifth highest in the nation for puppy mill volume, meaning there are a lot of puppy mill breeders in this state. We are 40th in the nation for animal protection laws, which means we are in the bottom tier for protecting animals in various ways. And then one that surprised me is that we are 39th lowest in the nation for child well-being. I find that a bit of a dichotomy since Georgia is consistently one of the best states in the country, certainly, and oftentimes the world for doing business. So I hate to see that we are failing animals and children so badly. And again, that was the catalyst for what we tried to do is fill in some of this gap for other organizations. And I think if you're familiar with the concept of silos, there are several large organizations throughout the state that do amazing work, and there are small organizations in the state that do amazing work. But unfortunately, there are several areas in rural Georgia, many outside, metropolitan areas like Atlanta, Savannah, Macon, that really need help. And a lot of these places have very compassionate, well-intended people who don't necessarily have the information that they need to do what they want to do for animals in their areas. And that's where we come in. We try to provide the resources and the information that they need and tell them what the steps are, how to get things for their organizations, whether it be in-kind donations, whether it be grant funding, whether it be volunteers, sometimes just information to share with their elected officials. We try to help make sure that they have, some kind of support. I think it probably is kind of along the lines of the expression I'm sure you've heard, if you give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. If you teach him how to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. And that's a lot of what we try to do for people who are interested in helping animals in Georgia. The other thing that we've really gotten involved in a lot is youth education programs. Sometimes it's called humane education, sometimes it's called social emotional learning, but the idea is to help kids learn about interacting with animals, both things like safe interactions with dogs, preventing dog bites, all the way to helping kids in academically be more successful because different books, different interactions with animals, and learning vocabulary feeds into academic success and also to self-confidence. And when you build on those things, you can start developing things like life skills, things that are important for kids to learn as they're growing up so that they become well-rounded adults. And I think, let's see, the next slide, if you'll put that up. So some of the things that we've accomplished since we've been, doing these programs, as you mentioned before, our nominee was the 2019 American Humane Hero Veterinary Nurse Award winner, and that was huge for us. Um, that came out of some dogs in West Georgia that had some trauma and major medical needs, and we partnered with an organization that runs out of a veterinary clinic in Gwinnett County, called Russell Ridge Animal Hospital, and they run something called a care fund. And Angel Martin, who was the award winner, was one of our partners that year and donated more than $10,000 in major medical veterinary care to save these dogs that otherwise would not have survived. And that's one of the many things that we try to do, is create those community partnerships where we can and make sure that people are aware that these resources exist. Another thing that we're very proud of is that we have a platinum seal of transparency from GuideStar, also called Candid. And that basically is just I guess the best way to put it, that is assurance for our donors that we are transparent with the funding that they give us. A couple of things more local. Last year, we were part of a steering committee in Rockdale County, Georgia, and helped contribute to what they call now their comprehensive master plan for their animal welfare program there. And they have made a commitment in that county to be no kill by 2025. And then, as you mentioned, we also provide support to about 80 organizations every year with things like in-kind donations, grant research, event support, fundraising, volunteers, advocacy assistance, anything that someone needs help with, we try to be of service when we can. And again, it's really more of a opportunity for us to, contribute across the state. We send out invitations all the time asking if people need help with a particular thing. In fact, we're going to start another one probably within the next couple of months in Dublin, Lawrence County area, which is east central Georgia. And that will be a big one because that particular area has had so many problems over the years with just no support at all for their animals, and we hope to help turn that area around.
All right. Wow, that's a lot. I have a couple questions I want to kind of circle back to.
Okay.
Why is the save rate so low? And is this a percentage, or is this based on a number? So is it the highest number, we just happen to have a lot more pets, or is it actually percentage based that where our rate is that low?
It's a little bit of both. The way that number comes about, if you're familiar with the national organization Best Friends Animal Society, they have started collecting data nationally for the last several years, and they pull that from various places, from departments of agriculture that require animal controls and rescues to turn in numbers. There's an organization called Shelter Animals Count that they pull through. And then they also actually, are boots on the ground calling and asking these questions. So part of the problem is that, yes, we have a higher population in Georgia than a lot of the states that are registering. And you will see that animal issues follow population density. That's why you see that Texas and California are the worst and the second worst in the nation for save rates because the population is so large. Then Florida and North Carolina are also ahead of Georgia in that, they have worse save rates than what we have. The other piece is that when you have certain hindrances based either on legislative gaps or things that the state here does not allow, like say, for example, one of the biggest problems for save rates in Georgia is cats. If you're familiar with the term feral cat or community cat, these are non-domesticated animals that basically have been born in the wild, live in the wild. The state of Georgia companion animal section that runs under the Department of Agriculture does not recognize trap, neuter, return programs. And therefore you have a huge number of cats that are entering animal control facilities that are automatically killed. And
Mm-hmm.
that contributes a lot to that number. One of the things that you'll see a lot of local organizations working on is TNR ordinances in their local areas. And that's something that we've been helping with too. The most recent one was Bartow County a couple of years ago. But then you get some nuances. Say, for example, Bartow County allows TNR, City of Cartersville does not. So there are little gaps in accessibility to some of the resources based on little nuances and allowances like that.
So that leads me to my next question. What are some of the laws that we should have that we don't have? So that sounds like one of them. What are some of the other ones that other states have
A
that you
lot of
feel we
it
should?
is not necessarily laws that we should have, but enforcement.
Uh huh.
Spay neuter is one of the buzzwords in the rescue community and has been for many, many years. Um, the problem with spay neuter, Georgia does require and has required for more than a decade spay neuter of any animal that's adopted through rescue or animal control facilities within 30 days or adult maturity,
Mm-hmm.
plus rabies vaccinations. But you will find that there is almost no enforcement of that. And animal control facilities will tell you that it's because they don't have the manpower to do it, and because the punishment for not doing it is not severe enough to invest a lot of time and effort in it. So if we can get enforcement, if we can get adherence to those regulations, that would be a huge step in the right direction. Um, Most of what we have, as you alluded to earlier, with the population density and the save rates, is going to be related to the enforcement issue, whether it be spay neuter, whether it be outdoor tethering, whether it be the TNR. And we have a gap, for lack of a better way of putting it, between rescues and animal control facilities. There are not very good partnerships in a lot of areas, and Georgia does not have a requirement for animal control officers the same way that a lot of states do to have certain credentials in order to do that job. And there is a new buzzword that you probably are not familiar with, but it's called human animal support services. And in the animal welfare community, what they try to do is prevent animals from entering the shelter to begin with. And animal control and officers who are out on the street all day, every day, would be a huge asset to that if they participated in the program. Meaning, if I'm an animal control officer and I pick up a dog and the dog has a tag that I can read the address, instead of taking the dog to the shelter, I should take it home. That's the
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing that rescue communities are trying to promote. Because if the animals never enter the shelter to begin with, then that is much less burden on the system and more likely to keep them from having a bad outcome.
Yeah. Wow. That's. I mean, I would. I mean, that just would be an assumption that if someone found one of my dogs, especially a law enforcement, that they would see the tag and bring the dog home, or check
Yeah,
the chip. You know, if there's no
yeah.
tag,
Well,
then check the chip.
and in theory, the first thing that should happen is the chip should be scanned. There are unfortunately animal control facilities in Georgia that don't own a chip scanner.
That's
So
silly.
people have to be very diligent in, checking the facility for their animal if it were to get
Mm-hmm.
lost. Then there are situations where the hold period may vary. Some places may hold it for 3 days, some places may hold it for 10 days. Some places may allow it to be adopted out by someone else after the hold period expires. Some places may euthanize it after it expires. So there is a lot of variation in how facilities are managed, which, back to your original question, consistency would be a great thing to have.
Mm.
And we're hoping
Yeah.
that after elections and so forth are over, that we can approach the powers that be and say, as an animal welfare community, here's what we're coming to you asking for, here's what we'd like to get support from the state to do, and make progress there. Because like I said, it's not just animals, it's also the children, and a lot of times those things go hand in hand. So the humane education piece goes for children and adults, and you'd be surprised how few people in the state realize what our numbers look like as an animal welfare community. And most people, obviously, I think I could probably say that you're one of them based on your response. We're horrified to see that. I mean, I'm a native Georgian, and I'm horrified to see these numbers come through. And not just for the save rates, but for the contributions on the other side. Puppy mills. It wasn't maybe 2 years ago, there was a facility in Berrien County, Georgia, which is down in the south part of Georgia. A breeder there had more than 1,000 dogs that were taken in by rescues because he basically decided that they were no longer of value since they couldn't produce for him anymore, and he didn't want to clean up the mess. So then you have rescues coming in there and taking on his problem with animals that had major medical issues, which was very expensive, behavioral issues from living in a cage their entire lives. And this is the kind of thing that rescues face all day, every day. And one of the problems that we're seeing here lately, on top of all the COVID issues that happened over the last 2 years, is what's called compassion fatigue. Every day we see another rescue posting, we're closing, we can't take any more in, we're not going to continue, we're not going to renew our license. It's just overwhelming. And the COVID has been a problem because the spay neuter was basically shut down during that time. So now we're seeing the after effects with more population growth in the animals. Excuse me. The problems that arise, in the domino effect, so to speak, are very significant, and they're hard to overcome. And a lot of times people just say, there's not anything else we can do. And that's, like I said, that's one of the things that we try to help with, is support these people when they say, what else can I do? Where can I get some support? Who can help me? They may not know, what funding is available. They may not know even in-kind resources can make a world of difference to some of these small rescues that are basically running a handful of foster homes or out of their own homes. And the piece with the humane education, we're hoping, will eventually create a next generation of people who do a better job with their animals than what we have done in the past.
Yeah. So for your organization, to get all this education and whatnot, it costs money to be able to do that. I mean, sure, you have a lot of volunteers that are donating their time and their knowledge and what have you, but where's the funding coming from? Where do you get your primary funding? Is it from donors? Is it from grants?
A little bit of both. We're fortunate in that a lot of the resources that we use are actually free. For example, some of the books that we distribute to schools and at some of our community outreach events, we get these from an organization called Tales That Teach. And these are through K through 2 age, and these are donated to us. We also get things donated from Maddie's Fund. Corinda Shelter Beds is a huge donor for a lot of rescues, and they have helped us out in the past. Griffin Press donates books to us that we distribute throughout the state. And then we also work with Georgia Pet Foundation, which does the car tags.
Oh, yeah.
I can't see what the is. And as an ambassador for their program, what we try to do is make sure that the funding they have available, along with their sister organization, Fix Georgia Pets, we make that aware for any organization that's in the area for the grant cycle. And then we have gotten small grants ourselves from Maddie's Fund, from the Binky Foundation, Athletes for Animals, you may be familiar with, and that covers most of our expenses because, like I said, we have much less expenses than an organization that does traditional pull in place and is covering all of the medical. I'm fortunate that I can do a good bit out of my pocket when it's needed. And I do that to make sure that anything we do actually have donated is 100% going toward animal care. Um, I think probably in the past, we've had some success with community partner fundraisers. If you're familiar with Kendra Scott Jewelry, she's one of our supporters. We've also got several different organizations that we work with every year as part of their events. And let's see, probably October this year, I think it'll come up something called Rescue Dog Games at Piedmont Park. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but we set up with them. We just did an event. I saw you had some pictures on there with the Alpharetta Public Safety Foundation's K9 5K. We set up with them over the weekend. So what we try to do is as much outreach and education as we can in unique places so that people get more of the message in areas that it's unexpected. One of the smaller places that we've been is Bloom Donuts in Milton, which is probably a good place for you to go because they do have coffee to go with your donuts. And, so little places that we can get the word out about what's going on in Georgia and ask people not just for help for, not necessarily, we don't always ask for money, but we ask people to just be aware and to share the message and to participate in the process. And in fact, the bag that you see behind me there, that's what we distribute at schools, and we put the books and usually little trinkets and things inside the bags when we go and we do things at libraries, schools, different community events. Just to get the message out there. And you'll notice the slogan on the bag is "I'm learning how to be a hero for Georgia animals," and that's what we're trying to encourage people to do, children and adults. And like we always tell people, it seems very simple, but one of the most important things that people can do to help animals in Georgia is to be very responsible with their own animals, making sure that they are spayed and neutered, they don't roam, they're secured, they're not tethered, that they are, setting an example for, their neighbors, their friends, their schoolmates, making sure that they understand, that they are part of the solution and that, we need to be able to count on them to help us share the message across the state.
Yeah, excellent. And folks, you can go to silvercometawa.org, silvercometawa.org. Make a donation there. Of course, see what upcoming events and all the resources that they have available to everyone there. So that's silvercometawa.org. And is there anything that we didn't cover that you wanted to share?
Let's see, if you would put up the slide that has all the logos on it. So these are the organizations that support us, and I just want to, tell them thank you officially for their generosity, either with in-kind donations, information, sharing the message across the country, and hopefully we will have more growing here all the time. And I think the idea here is that it is a community. No one organization can make all the changes that are needed. We need everybody to take a part and to have, some level of interest and concern for what's happening in our state.
Yeah, that's I recognize some of these too, which is great. Well, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate having you here today. And before I let you go, though, I always like asking my guests to recommend future guests, a nonprofit innovator in the Atlanta or Georgia area. Do you have anyone you'd like to recommend for Coffee Connections?
I do. I work with a girl. Her name is Kathy Smith, and her organization is Georgia Herp. That's short for Georgia Herpetological Association. And I call it creepy crawlies, but it is reptiles. And you can see some pictures of Kathy there with her lizards and snakes. And Kathy is one of the most recognized reptile experts in Georgia. She does all kinds of presentations around the state. She's been on several different TV shows, showing off her animals. She knows probably more about reptiles than anybody I've ever met. And I think, she will definitely give you a good show with all of her giant creatures.
I'll feel like Johnny Carson will be great.
Yeah, it's a little easier for her, because it's hard to bring cats and dogs on without getting barking and meowing
Right.
and climbing. But the snakes and the lizards will usually just sit there for you.
Yeah, I've had a couple of guests though that have been animal organizations, and they've had the cat, the cat towers, if you will, and so the cats just kind of hang out and then start like walking around. It's always fun. Well, Shari, thanks so much for your time. I really appreciate it. And once again, I will direct everyone to your website, silvercometawa.org. Thank you for doing the work you're doing and getting that education piece out there. And really, it's one thing to fix a problem, but it's another thing to be a solution and prevent the problem from happening in the future. So I commend you for your efforts.
Well, thank you. And if anyone's interested in having us do a presentation, just let me know. If you go to the website, the email and phone number and so forth are there. And just a final word, everything that we do is free. We don't charge for anything. So any type of school program, even if it's just for a handful of students, if it's something that someone wants to do at their kid's birthday party, we've got all kinds of fun things for kids, anywhere from K through 6. We've got a lot of handouts and books and things, but we also work with high school groups and help them, learn how to add things in the animal welfare sphere, to their learning plan and to their resumes. So, we'd be glad to partner with anybody to help Georgia animals.
Excellent. Well, thanks so much. Everyone have a great rest of your day. Yes, I am wearing a short suit today, short jacket for summer. But I don't have the sequence one here, but maybe someone out there, makes sequence ones. I'll give you my size. All right, folks. Thanks so much. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you all again here soon.
Thank you.